Hello everyone. Thank you for being here again. That is the Unit 6, Management and Ethical Leadership, Unit 6 from the course Business Ethics and Corporate Social Responsibility. This is the very short index that we are going to follow in this presentation. And I would like to start to highlighting the idea that today managing organizations requires more human capacities than technical skills. Some people from many years are working in this direction, and one interesting book, Organizing Projects for Success, acknowledges that today the real management challenge lies not in technical problems. We have a lot of technology, instruments, methodologies, technical knowledge, etc., but in the behavioral and organizational aspect of projects. So the people are the center of the project, and in general, people are the center of every organization. So managing people today is more relevant and more critical than ever in the history. The question is, who is a good manager? Who is a good leader? Of course, it's not the same manager as leader, but we have to make this question. This is a very provocative slide that I will present some pictures from relevant people. Probably I am sure that you know every one of them. And the question is, are all these people leaders? Or some of them are leaders and others are another kind of, I don't know, people who lead people. It's not the same. My conclusion, and I advance you right now, my conclusion is that the people that are on the top, they are really authentic leaders. The people who are in the line below, they are not authentic leaders. Why? From my perspective and from the perspective of many theoretical authors and relevant philosophers. Because the key point when we speak about leadership and management is the freedom of people. Leaders, guiding someone, you can do in two ways, from using power, authorities, fear, etc., or through inspiration, through proposing some ideas, some principles, some aims that are valuable in itself, and you trust in the freedom of everyone to follow or not to follow you. The leaders on below, they are dictators. They use power, fear, violence to reach their own objectives. The people who are in the top, they are just presenting and working, of course, and fighting, and at some point being very strong in their positions, but always respecting freedoms from the followers. So this is a general introduction about leadership. You can discuss a lot about that. What is the definition of management? There are many definitions. If you go to the Oxford Dictionary, you can read this definition: the process of dealing with controlling things or people managing company organization, responsibility for control of company. If you read carefully this definition, you spontaneously you will see two words that are present: control. Management, in a sense, means to control the environment, the technical or the material environment, and the material means, and also the people. So this is the classical one definition. I prefer another more elaborated definition presented by Peter Ulrich and Fleury from the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland, and they propose understanding management as a socio-technological leadership using professional methods. The idea is that we have to guide to some objectives, to some ends, the means that we have, and that is socio-technical, that is technical but also social, and using professional methods. Traditionally, we can identify two historical approaches. We have not time to go in depth on that. There is a lot of relevant and very interesting books, documentary articles about the history of management, and I recommend you to read this very. But I want only to stress two main and general ideas. The traditional and the classical scientific approach, it was developed originally by Taylor in the scientific management in 1911, at the first of the 20th century. Henry Fayol, it was also another theoretical of management, and Max Weber, bureaucratic structures. all this classical scientific approach based on the idea that there is a really strong difference or a clear separation between the people who think and the people who act. And there are a technical perspective of management. That is, we developed an instrument to control, to supervise, and to make mathematical or technical decisions, and someone has to apply that. In the 1940s, 15 of the past century, there was another approach for management. That was the behavioral approach. And the behavioral approach, practically, it was an overcoming of this classical scientific approach, in the sense that they consider that the technical approach is not enough. That when you lead people with emotion, with sentiments, with this emotional part, where motivation is very important. You cannot treat people as machines. So there is much more complex, there is a strong discussion, but keep in mind that these two perspectives, just rationality, technical approach, to the other more emotional, more broad and whole perspective of management, are two main approaches. And depending on this approach, the role of ethics is different, it's very different. In the first one, in the classical scientific approach, of course, ethics plays no role. And in the behavioral approach, it's more relevant, it's some space for speaking about ethics when we deal with people. So this is just a very overview, a very superficial overview of these management theories, but I think it's important to keep in mind that. For reflecting about that, I strongly recommend you to read this wonderful article, but management theories are destroying good management practice. But in this author said, Sumantra Ghoshal, died some years ago, unfortunately, and Sumantra Ghoshal here said that, unfortunately, bad theories, inaccurate theories about what means management are destroying good practices. And the basic schema of this article is that if we have here some ideology-based gloomy vision, we have a negative assumption about people and institutions. For instance, the basic idea that people are selfish, always selfish, and that is the natural way of being. That is not fair, that is not right, but we assume that, and we plan and we organize the life in organization or in companies based on this idea. Other approach is this idea of causal determinism. People try to understand the function or how a company functions in similar way as the natural science or the natural environment, with some specific fixed laws, some causal effect relationships. And that is not the case. The reality is much more complex. There is, at the end, an organization is a community of people with different interests, aspirations, emotions, etc. It's not just a technical system. So what he said is that this kind of assumptions are dominating the theory of management. And the problem is that it translates that in some practices, and that is destroying good practices, because other people, without knowing all these theories, are acting in another way and get good results, but the theories say that this is not the right way to do things. So this is incredible and very fascinating and amazing article. I strongly recommend you to read, because it's a complex and very critical but very constructive approach on how to understand the relation between management theory and management practice. Then now going into the last part of the session, I want to say a few words about ethical leadership. There is several definitions of leaderships. One is Peter Drucker, is a classical author. The only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. Okay, we can discuss, but this is a very general. It's difficult to discuss this definition. Or there are more, from my point of view, more precise or more complex. Yeah, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. That's more aspirational. Bill Gates proposed that if we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empowers others. This is a very Main Street approach, I will say. And John Maxwell is more in the way of Peter Drucker. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So this is several definitions about leaders, but the sense of leadership is always someone who has followers or who has to lead other people in some specific direction. And that is an important question, and that is the question about ethics and the sense of ethics. If you have a leader or the director of your company is someone who has some specific values, skills, and knowledge. The sense for leadership, the sense of leadership is the values. If you have a responsible or a leader of your group is someone who has incredible skills, a really very good broad knowledge, specific knowledge about your business, etc. But he is a gangster, he is authoritarian, he is disrespectful, he is unfaithful, you cannot trust on this person. It's difficult to name this person as a leader. The sense of leadership are the values. Person who has integrity, exemplarity, respect other people, has self-critic skills. They accept the critics. Are people who respect freedom of other people, value the opinion of other people. This is the sense of leadership. So, in a sense, and that is my main message here, is that the sense of leadership are the ethical values. And that is not something that I just say a professor or a university professor or some theoretical aspect. If you ask people, and there are saying a lot of researchers trying to identify what are the main traits or the essential characteristic of a good leader. And if you ask people, the answer are like this: honesty, ability to delegate, communication, confidence, commitment, creation, intuition, ability to inspire. These kind of qualities are human, and some of them specifically, like honesty, for instance, or confidence, that are ethical qualities. And going a little bit more, and that is my proposal. My proposal is that ethical leadership requires respect the freedom of the followers. Remember the slide with the pictures of these dictators and other social figures. Yeah, the sense of ethical leadership requires no manipulation, no fear, dialogue, participation, self-critic, honesty, responsibility, and trust. Of course, this is very easy to say, and it's difficult, but in a sense, if we want that people follow what I expect that they follow, the only way to do that is through this way of acting, being honest, being dialogue, listen to other people, give explanation about or justify your decision, etc. That is the only way to establish trust and to keep a long-term perspective of relationship and cooperation and solidarity, etc. So this is a really incredible topic. You can see a lot of documentary films, some literature, books, etc. I strongly recommend you the books from this man. This is Henry Mintzberg. The first of there is The Natural of Managerial Work. This is a classical one in the 16th of the last year, and Managing is the other. And this is small video YouTube interview, and it's very clever. I recommend you to read, because it's a perspective to invite to the reflection and to be honest what means managing and what are the capacities or skills that a person who manages a group of people needs. So that's all for this lesson. I hope you enjoy it, and as I told you before, please read and look for information, because there is a lot of relevant and very interesting information about this one very interesting and essential topic for your professional development. Thank you.